Very good morning to the gelding. And gelding races return to headquarters at Flemington today, and the rail's in the true position. So 9 races up for decision. How are you seeing things today?
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Excuse me. Looking forward to a nice fair track, hopefully, Professor, at Flemington. Haven't raced there since the Australian Cup meeting. Of course, the Anzac Day meeting being, cancelled due to the death of Dean Holland. So what I'm hoping, Professor, is a very good track. Hopefully, we've had good weather out here, bit of frost this morning. So currently a soft 5, but I'm expecting the track to race as a good 4 later in the day. So rail in the true Flemington track, long straight, everyone should get their chance.
Now
Let's hope there's no bias. Anyway.
We hope for no bias, gelding. That's always the case. Now,
yes.
we should warn punters that the first race today is at, I don't know why, the early time of 11:55. Now, gelding, can you explain to me, 12:25 is the normal first race time in Victoria, but for some reason today it's at 11:55. Why do we have to get up half an hour earlier today?
Professor, you keep asking me for all these things to explain decisions by race committees. Why do you expect me to be able to answer logically?
Just thought you might have an insight that I didn't have, gelding.
No, look, I know certainly during the summer months, sometimes the start can be 1 o'clock or later, and go to 5:30. But I presume with winter looming, Professor, the early start so we can get an early finish and don't have to worry about light.
Get home before it's dark, gelding.
Get home before it's dark, Professor.
All right, the feature race, gelding, is race 7, the listed Andrew Ramsden, over 2,800 metres, worth $500,000. I did a little bit of research on Andrew Ramsden. Gelding, who is a well-known owner of racehorses and also was for 5 years the chair of the Victorian Racing Club. So, and 21 years on the committee there. So here's another race that's named after an administrator.
Yes, they're good at looking after themselves, Professor, administrators. But look, Andrew Ramsden, heavily involved in racing. Look, the good thing about this race is that the winner gets an automatic start in the Melbourne Cup, Professor.
Well,
so a lot at stake today. Not only good prize money, a listed race with 500,000. It also guarantees you with a spot in the Melbourne Cup. So that's why I think that's attracted such a large field, Professor, 22.
Well, yeah, I did notice today, gelding, when I was going through each of the races, as I always do, the fields are up in comparison to recent meetings.
Big fields, Professor. See, this is what's happening. You're at a good track. So you're not going to worry about getting a heavy track. Good prize money, each race, a lot of $150,000, $175,000 races, I think. Oh, no, there's an $80,000. There's a compulsory $80,000 race 4, but all the rest, Professor, are all worth good money.
All right, gelding, what are your 2 best bets for today's races?
Well, Professor, I'm going later in the day. First bet being race 6. Race 6, horse 4, the Jumbuck, trained by Brian McGrath, to be ridden by Blake Shin. Brian McGrath is the breeder of this horse is Jim McGrath, Professor, who was the famous BBC race caller. So, Jim's brought this one out, and given it to his son to train at Cranbourne, and he's doing an absolutely fine job, Professor. Out of its last 4 starts, this horse has won 3 races and ran 4th. Where we're at here, we've won at Sandown, 4th at Flemington. We've had a 4 starts on this track at Flemington for 2 wins. 9 starts at the distance for 4 wins, 3 seconds, and a 3rd, Professor. Horses coming up to $500,000 in stake money, and no one's riding better than Blake Shin, Professor. So what we might do is race 6, number 4. Then we'll have a bet in the main race, the Lexus Andrew Ramsden. And I can't go past Gay Waterhouse's horse here in White Marlin, Professor. Won first up from a spell, was beaten last start. Just a Pakenham in a race that I thought was probably, just a run, but, Gay dropped it back in distance, but it obviously needed that run for today's race. Over 2,800 at Flemington. I just think White Marlin is the bet of the day in Melbourne, Professor. So we'll go race 7, horse 10, White Marlin. You like, Professor?
Yeah, going a little bit earlier with my first selection, Gelding. Race 5, the Cameron Ryan Plate. Race for 3-year-old horses over 1,600 metres. I like in this race, Gelding, horse 2. Lethal Thoughts coming out of barrier 1. It's had 9 starts for 2 wins and a placing. So a 22% win rate, a 33% place rate. Was leading in the Group 1 Caulfield Guineas in November, Gelding.
Yes, had a run in that, Professor.
Yeah. At the 200-metre mark, it was leading. But it had done a lot of work to get there, Gelding, and it didn't hang on. So it's a last start winner in the Mornington Guineas, where Blake Shin, who you mentioned earlier, was riding it. And guess what, Gelding? He sat it back and didn't do all the work at the start of the race. So, of course, it ran on. It's a So You Think colt, Gelding. I think it should do very well in this race and should present. It's showing odds at the moment of $3 and $1.50. So very good for each way bettors.
Top trainers, Professor. Top jockey. Last start winner. I like your tip.
Blake Shin, Gelding, over his last 50, 16% win rate. Mar Eustace, career 17% win rate. Over the last 50, 26% win rate.
They are flying at the moment. So, they can win anything, Professor.
Well, hopefully they can win race 5 at Flemington today, Gelding.
Exactly.
All right, my second selection is in the Rose Room Sprint, a 3-year-old race over 1,200 metres, Gelding, up the straight 6. In this one, I like horse number 9, Midtown Boss, coming out of barrier 5. Lightly raced, 4 starts for 2 wins and a placing, so 50% win rate, 75% place rate. I like those odds, Gelding. Second up, it's had 2 starts for 1 win, so I like that form as well. It's won over 1,200 metres on a soft track at Sandown in November. It's a Street Boss colt, Gelding, and I think Street Boss is going to become like Schnitzel. Everybody wants a Street Boss.
Oh, beautiful, Professor. Beautiful.
The danger, Gelding, number 2, Airman in this race.
Well, very much so. I think it's a very open race, Professor. But as you said, nothing better than a horse that's won 2 out of 4. 50% and 75% place rate over the distance has won. Had 2 starts for 2 wins. So let's hope, Professor. Way down there. Who's aboard Midtown Boss, Professor?
Linda Meach is in the saddle, Gelding.
And
she's in career form at the moment as well. 14% for her career. Win rate over the last 50, 20%.
And was the equal top rider down at the Warrnambool Carnival, Professor.
So she's in very, very, very good form, Gelding.
Very, very good. She's in very, very good form, Professor. Very similar to the very, very, very successful Professor's Parlay. Who's in better form?
Yeah, just recapping mine. Race 5, horse 2, Lethal Thoughts. Race 9, horse 9, Midtown Boston. Let's turn now to the very, 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 very successful Professor's Parlay. And I used 7 because it's been successful 7 out of the last 10 weeks.
Well, that's fantastic, Professor. That is just excellent tipping on your behalf.
Yeah, I did a tweet about it during the week, Gelding. Not too many people are tipping at 70% at the moment.
Well, if any tipster's guide anywhere in the world, Professor, if you're operating on 3 out of 10, 30% win rate, as selections, as I've told you, have done very, very well. And that's what I like about this. That's racing. Yeah, it's quite often we're around the 50% kind of mark, or things like that. So without doing it, but to be targeted in at 70% with three tips having to win, that is sensational.
Well, last week, let's recap. Zaki looked after us, Gelding.
Yes.
Yep, the horse tip got up, and then Manchester City did its work, 1-2-1, and Geelong. Luckily, we're on Geelong last week and not last night, Gelding.
Oh, you shouldn't make me laugh, Professor, with this cold.
So for our last week, Gelding, for the win in the place parlay for our $10, which is not a lot of money, for our $10 investment, a $17.50 return.
I can't see where you get 75% on your money, Professor.
Well, and I did the calculations, Gelding, over the 10 weeks. Of course, if it's $10 a week, then our investment over the 10 weeks has been $100.
Yeah.
And the parlay's returned $152.50.
52% on your money, Professor.
You couldn't get that bank interest, Gelding?
No, 52%. I think a lot of people would be happy with that. And we look forward to seeing a few of them soon, hopefully.
Well, we hope so, Gelding. All right, now let's turn to today's parlay, and we'll put the crown out there. Race 8.
Yeah, it's out there to be knocked off, Professor. But let's hope we get another one. 8 out of 11.
We can hope, Gelding. All right, let's go.
It's not hard, Professor. I'm confident.
Oh, I'm confident every time I tip, Gelding.
Yeah, good.
All right, so let's go to the Doomben 10,000.
Yes.
Race 8, horse 8, Giga Kick.
Yes. Now, probably taken over the mantle of being the best sprinter. Craig Williams has turned down the ride on the favourite in the Group 1 South Australian Derby to make sure that no one else gets aboard Giga Kick. So Craig Williams has gone up there to ride it, trained by Clayton Douglas, and hopefully he can add another Group 1 to his success, Professor. Worried about Arf Cabin, a horse we've been backing from the Blue Army, but I just think while it's an outstanding horse, it hasn't got the record that Giga Kick has built up, Professor.
All right, Gelding. So we're going to parlay that into Delegan's South Sydney Rabbitohs this afternoon to beat the West Tigers. Rabbitohs currently third on the NRL ladder with a plus 94 points differential. They've won 7 and lost 3. And the West Tigers had a very poor season so far. They've won 2 from 7, Gelding. Won 2 and lost 7. They're 17th with a minus 70 points differential. Now, they've won 2 games, Gelding, but I don't think that they'll get the Rabbitohs because the Rabbitohs are the Giraffes tip for the Premiers this year, and I think they'll be too good for the West Tigers.
And watching them, Professor, Giraffes got us interested watching them, and they're an exciting team to watch. They're playing fantastic rugby league. And just for the viewers, watching them is like watching Collingwood at the moment. They can just turn it on in a flash and all of a sudden, and it's good, entertaining football to watch. So, yes, I think I like that, Professor, the Rabbitohs.
A very good comparison, Gelding. And let's just say that let's use Melbourne Storm as the litmus. 2 weeks ago, South Sydney Rabbitohs beat Melbourne Storm at Olympic Park.
Yep.
And last night, Melbourne Storm played the top of the table Broncos.
Yep.
And put them to the sword.
Exactly, Professor.
So I think that if you wanted some comparisons, I think that's a very good comparison. Just shows you just how good South Sydney Rabbitohs are this year.
Yep. They're playing very, very attractive rugby league, Professor, and actually Deligan has got us on watching him, so it's good to be involved.
All right, and let's parlay that into my team, Melbourne, who are playing at the G this afternoon to beat Hawthorn. Melbourne flying, they're second on the ladder. 1-6 lost to, they've got a percentage of 138.3. Gelding. Hawthorn, 17th, second last. They've only won one game for the season. Now, what I liked about this as far as Melbourne's concerned, Hawthorn, in their 7 games so far, have only managed 491 points, which is the worst attack or offence in the league. Melbourne, 859 points. So they've nearly doubled what Hawthorn have kicked in 7 games.
Now, Professor, do you think, and I like your tip there, as we've said, previously, we've wrapped Collingwood. Melbourne's playing equally as good a football, as well, and looking very much for that game on the long weekend, Professor, coming up in June. But I like that tip. Do you think the week Melbourne's had with the tribunal thing and finally clear it, do you reckon that'll drain them of it all, or do you think they'll be keen to get out there and just get out there and play footy?
I think they'll be keen to get out there and show how good they are, Gelding.
Yep.
Hawthorn have been their nemesis over many, many years, especially when I was a young fellow, and I think we might get one back today.
Beautiful.
Give them hopefully they'll give them a bit of a hiding.
Will Don Scott bring out the combined jumper, will he?
Too late for that, Gelding. We don't want to merge with them now anyway. They're down the bottom of the ladder.
Beautiful, Professor.
Oh, Gelding.
All fun, isn't it?
It is. It is very, very much fun, Gelding. All right. Well, special edition of Sportsfan Radio on Mother's Day tomorrow. Now, Gelding, you'll be doing the right thing and you'll be out for lunch. But Deligan and I decided to do a program just concentrating on the NRL. So it'll only be a shortened version of Sportsfan Radio, but there will be an edition, Mother's Day edition tomorrow.
Now, Professor, you expecting to get a word in tomorrow? Well, actually, how long does the show run for?
As long as Paul can talk. As long as he's got something to say, Gelding, we'll keep going.
Oh, fantastic, Professor.
I would anticipate 15 to 20 minutes tomorrow, Gelding.
Okay, I hope you get 5 minutes of talking time in. Get it in early.
All right, Gelding. Until that's racing next Saturday, it's good luck.
And good punting.